evening and welcome to Your Home, Your Money with your hosts Randy and Anthony right here on Reality Radio 101. To get on board, send us an email. Our email address is yourhomeyourmoney101@gmail.com. And now, right to your hosts of Your Home, Your Money, Randy and Anthony.
Hello, y'all. We're here.
Good night.
A little delayed.
Yeah. Still not used to this mornings. I'm not used to not doing the mornings anymore. Anyways, nice to be back with you guys. We do have a special guest with us today. As Gary said, we have Ray Young with us today, a financial planner here in the Durham region. And if you've been watching us for the last little while, we've been kind of talking about a little bit of the doom and gloom in the real estate market, especially if you're in the younger generation, with these house prices going crazy over the last few years. I think the average is now over $1 million. I don't have the exact numbers in front of me, but over $1 million to get a home, which can be a little bit daunting if you're just trying to get into the market. So hopefully Ray's going to help us out and tell us what we can do potentially to maybe still get into the market today.
Yeah, for sure. I'm excited to be here and add some insight into some of the available programs. And I'm really going to talk a lot about the millennials today. I have 3 millennial daughters, and it hits close to home because I think the whole millennial segment of the market is the I can't philosophy. I can't ever buy a home. I can't ever get to retire. I can't ever have the trip of my dreams. And the truth is, millennials, by statistics, they live more from experiences in life than even material things, but not when it comes to their home. They still want to have a home, have a place, they call their own, hang their hat. And for me, like I said, I want to just talk a little bit about that. And I understand. I mean, I remember what I paid for my first home when I was getting married in my 20s. It was $164,000 in Curtis, Ontario. And in comparison, I don't think people's incomes have gone up at all. Actually, statistically speaking, millennials, average household income for a millennial couple aged 25 to 40 is $80,000 to $100,000. That's combined. So that hasn't changed because I was making that in 1991. I was an independent business owner, so I may have been a little bit higher than the average, but that's terrifying. That we expect our children to be able to do what we did at 8 to 10 times the cost of acquisition. And it's funny, I hear all the time being in the financial services world where people go, yeah, I just don't understand how my kids can't get ahead. Well, what are we talking about? It's such a different world. Having said that, can it be done? Absolutely. According to Stats Can, 30% of millennials do believe they could buy a house in the next 36 months, but they're actually weighing in on what are the interest rates going to be, is house prices going to drop, and I know Randy will speak to kind of what the market looks like right now and those things. That's not my area of expertise, but think about that for a second. That's only 3 out of 10. If you had a dinner party with 10 of your friends, 3 of you believe you can buy a house. For me, everybody was going to buy a house. It was just part of graduating and going through, college, university, and starting your life. So keep that in mind. But having said that, take inflation and interest rates and the cost of homes all into one consideration. If you really want something, you can find a way to get it. That's all I know. I've spent my whole life trying to inspire people to find a way. And if you plan for something, you can absolutely get it. The reality is most of us, when you take that I give up mentality, there is no possibility. When you look at all those great, true story movies about athletes who overcome the worst possible obstacles and things like that, how is that? Are they superhuman? No, they just made a decision to decide, which means to kill off the alternative. So if you keep saying no, you've decided no. You have to start considering the possibility of yes. So when you look at things like home buyers RSP plans, the first time home buyers plan, and tax-free savings accounts, and we're heading into what we'll call tax season. For me, in the financial services world, we know it to be RSP season. And the reality is what people don't understand is if you look at the first-time home buyers plan, to me, it's like the ultimate marriage of the tax-free savings account and the RSP account, and it's the best of both. You see, when you put money into a home buyer's RSP plan, and I'll kind of walk you through this, the government is going to reduce your income by that amount, which means you'll get those taxes back that you would have proportionally owned on that. That you verify with your accountant. But simple example, if you make $50,000 a year and you put $10,000 into a retirement savings plan, in the government's eyes, you only made $40,000, but your employer withdrew taxes on $50,000. I hope that makes sense to everybody, and we'll answer questions as we go. But that's that part of it. The challenge is, yet you can buy that or use that money towards a down payment, but the reality is you have to reinvest that money over a certain time. The first-time home buyers plan doesn't work that way. You can put a lifetime $40,000 in it, $8,000 a year for 5 years, and you can take that money out and put it down, and you don't have to repay it. But here's the unique thing you need to remember about this. If you skip a year, you'll lose that room. So once you start your home buyer's plan, have a plan to stay with it. So for example, if you put $8,000 in this year, $8,000 next year, and you skip a year, you only get 1 year carry forward. It doesn't give you multiple carry forwards like people see with their tax-free savings account and the retirement plan. But I'll give you some examples of ways to fast track this. If you understand your tax rate, and you verify this with your tax professional, if you're making $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 a year, you can actually borrow money to put into your retirement plan. So financial institutions will loan you the money. So I'll give you a couple quick examples without me sitting down and doing your math and doing the paperwork, but I want you to understand it. If you're making $60,000 and you borrow $20,000 to put into an RSP plan, the government could give you back in a tax deduction, a refund, anywhere between $6,000 and $10,000. Well, that money, if you take it, you can fast track the repayment of the RSP plan, and when the RSP is paid off, you can use that as a down payment. So think about it right now. We're heading into a tax season. So if you started a plan right now, and depending on your income tax bracket and where you're sitting currently, you could literally accumulate inside the next kind of 14 months, $20,000 in equity in a retirement plan or a home buyer's plan with limited commitment outside of a couple $100s a month, depending on how you amortize the loan. So for that type of investment, you're getting the government to help accelerate your ability to buy a home exponentially. And if you and your partner are planning it together, again, so much of this is dependent on income tax brackets, but if you're doing it, and I'll give you an example, I had a couple recently, the husband was making 80 and the wife was making 60. They're both doing $20,000 RSP contributions through a leverage strategy, meaning they're borrowing the money to do it. Between the two of them, depending when it all settles come next March, they're going to be able to pay close to half of those loans off. And if they accelerate the loan for the next year, if they do it again next year, they'll be able to pay the first loan off completely. And they could already be sitting literally from ground zero today, 14, 15 months from now with $40,000 towards a down payment. I'm not going to answer whether that's enough, what you need with the mortgages. I'll let Randy speak of that. But in Durham, we're fortunate. There's a lot more affordable housing. I shouldn't say lots of affordable housing, that's not fair, but a lot more affordable housing than there is if you were trying to live downtown Toronto. You can buy a nice home in Bowmanville for $700,000, $800,000, and they are out there is what I'm saying. And when you look at what the minimum down payment is, literally people that are sitting here right now going, there's no way, I can't do this, I have no ability to do this. They could pull this off literally in less than 3 years. And if their income's higher, they can do it in 1 to 2. And there's so many other variables that people aren't even aware of. If you're a millennial couple with children and you're getting child tax credits and baby bonuses and things like that, by doing this, this also increases those. Because those benefits are relevant to how much your income is. And again, the government takes a snapshot that if your T4 says you made $70,000 and you put $40,000 into a retirement plan, in the government's eyes you only made $30,000. So all your tax deductions, all your benefits are now relevant that you were only made $30,000 even though you made $70,000. And these are the tricks that most people aren't taking the time to learn. You need to understand them. You need to sit down with a planner and let them sit down and write it out for you, and anything is possible. Nobody wants to become mortgage poor. That's not what I'd ever recommend for anything. Truthfully, by a financial planning standpoint, no more than 30% of your income should go to shelter. But at the end of the day, we know what the rental costs are. We know how much money you're putting into that. If you could own something and build equity for your future, the next step then is to accelerate that mortgage. You don't need to be into it for 25 or 35 years. Pay one extra payment per year and put it in your budget. You know, the amount of money we spend at, places like coffee shops and dining out, just scale back a couple of those so you can have your own home is what it comes down to. So that's kind of my initial take. I really think Randy could kind of add into what's available in the marketplace, what's the horizon for mortgage interest rates and things like that, because that is really where the rubber's going to meet the road. Can you find a house in your price point? Is it within a good enough succession to where you work to make it make sense? And are you willing to make the sacrifices necessary? At the end of the day, that's what it comes down to. You have to decide what you want more. Do you want to keep spending money that you don't need to spend? Do you want to keep traveling to places that maybe you don't need to travel to? And do you want to keep going and stopping for coffee every single morning on your way to your work rather than making a cup at home? All of those things seem like simple principles, but they're a reality of convenience that we've all lived by in the 21st century. All I know is I'm too busy to line up at any coffee shop. I have zero interest. If I'm going to go to a coffee shop, it better be empty. I will not pull into a drive-thru that's full. I don't care if I'm hungry. I will move to the next one or not get one at all. I wouldn't do it because time is the most valuable commodity that any one of us has. And the longer you wait to start, the less likely you'll ever begin, because you'll give up and give up and give up and become into that place. So, Randy, I don't know, what did you want to add about the marketplace? And
Sure. I mean, we can talk about the marketplace, but I want to go back on something you
Sure.
said that was a little triggering. You talked about giving up your coffee and saving that money. That is exactly how my wife and I did it. We the minute that we decided we were going to fall in love and have children, and buying a house became very, very important. Before that, we actually probably, it wasn't a thought, but soon as we were like, that's it, we're going to have children, then we were like, okay, well, we need shelter for our children. And so what we did is we got a piece of paper and we went through every single bill, like all of our credit cards, and it was astonishing the amount of different insurances that we had together. I think it was somewhere around, it sounds insane, but it was like in the $300 to $400 per month that we were paying in all these different insurances. We canceled that, right? And my wife, she loves to go buy coffee, and she loves to buy her lunch.
She's not here to defend
And
herself today.
I mean, you can call her. I'm not afraid to say anything in front of her, good or bad, right? And so we stopped we stopped buying lunches. We took lunches to work. Stopped buying coffee. Make a flask. At that time, we took on the premise that we know what we love, let's get it at home, and let's build a home. And so we just started saving and saving, and we did the RSP thing too as well. And what was really interesting was that we made this big long list of all of our bills and all of our stuff and what we're going to pay off and what we're going to do and all that stuff. And we then, that piece of paper went in a box for when we moved. When we found it years later, we have kids and that, and it just so happens we're getting ready actually to move to another house. And there's that thing, we look at it, everything on that paper we accomplished. So I'm actually a real big believer in writing down what your dreams and goals and aspirations are, and making a mental map or a physical map of it. And once you internalize it, by accident, because we no longer had that paper and was looking at it, we just by accident started moving in that direction. So as much as, well, actually, especially the price of coffee today, like Starbucks and that kind of silliness, like,
I didn't want to say anybody's name, but yeah, that's a good one
it's
right there.
almost like theft.
Honestly, like, just a quick, I guess, offshoot for that. Like, I don't really go to those places much, if at all. My wife definitely doesn't. I remember one time she went there all she wanted was a milk. I got a thing of milk. She saw the price and she basically almost walked out. Like, I think she was with somebody. This person would have had to buy it because she wasn't gonna pay the price. So like, basically, I think the cup of milk was same as buying like a 4 liters at the store.
No doubt.
And it's like, what are we doing here? Like, I don't understand. I work right now. Y'all know I teach as well, and every day people are coming in with these mocha latte frappe. And it's like, and you see the list of like everything you add to that, it's like an extra $1. I'm like, I'll go to Starbucks maybe 2-3 times a year because like I just can't justify going there any more than that. Like it's nice, but it's not like that price nice every day because it's like again, you have to make your choices, right?
Not to mention what I think it will do to your health long term.
Well, that too, yeah.
It will absolutely destroy your health long term. But you know, the other part of this is that when you start doing those savings and collecting that money, and it's really important that you get some financial advice because, you know, one of the things is that money is its own little world. And the way it works, our government has made it quite complicated, actually. And that's why you have to file taxes so they can take a good portion of your money. And the tax rules are probably single sheets of paper about 1.5 foot tall or 2 as a book. And so to understand them is very, very difficult. So you definitely want a professional on your side to help you to navigate it and not make any mistakes so that you can maximize the amount of money that you can gain and plus possibly learn how to utilize the programs that the government has in place to be able to get yourself on that path to home ownership faster. You got some emails?
A few emails, yes. First one is from Brenda. Brenda says, good advice, but here's the problem with your guest topic tonight. A lot of this fantastic advice should be in fact taught in school, at least at the basic, simplest level. We are too concerned in school about things that don't matter. And she said some other stuff, which I'll just leave for later. There is no real financial and life advice like your guest is talking about. This is very good information for older kids so they can plan for their future. So I'll touch on, you can touch on it too, right? As I am a teacher, I do teach math. And you're right, I teach math, a lot of it being upper level college university math. And to be honest, I think in the course that I teach, I think in grade 9, there's like a little bit of financial stuff talking about simple interest and compound interest. It's like a kind of like a afterthought really. So I do agree that this stuff, I personally agree that I think a lot of the stuff should be taught in school. But as Ray was saying though too, is like, yes, it's not, but you can't just, that's like a crutch that you're kind of following on. Like we all know what we want. It's, again, if you want something, make a plan to get it. Yes, should it be in school? Yes, I'm sure you can argue that. A lot of things should be in school. Like every year when class starts, they ask me, when am I gonna use this stuff in math? And I'm honest with them. I'm like, honestly, you're not gonna use most of it. Like 95% of you aren't gonna use anything you learn in this class. It's more about learning how to think, learning how to solve problems, right? I teach like trig identities, and I'm sure half you don't know what that is, because again, most of you don't ever need that. But as I tell them, with school, there's a finite amount of money. We give you everything, take what you need, and you can kind of specialize as the farther you move up with it. But again, you can kind of go on offshoot there, but you can kind of touch on that if you want to.
Yeah, and I got to tell you, my first year in the industry, which was 1996, I was actually involved in a petition with a gentleman named Talbot Stevens. Mm-hmm. He wrote a book called Financial Freedom Without Sacrifice. It's basically the Canadian version of The Wealthy Barber. And we did a petition to try to get it taught in grade 12. All basic financial planning. Yeah. How does compound interest work? Simple interest first, compound interest. The power of compound interest as it relates to saving and investing. But unfortunately, it didn't get there. Yeah. And here we sit. And just to go on a little bit, and I appreciate Brenda's comment, the reality, though, is the information is out there. The challenge is making sure you do enough research to get the right information. The smartest thing you can ever do is go with your gut when it comes to your research online. Anything that sounds too aggressive could be. I mean, because inside all these investment plans, be it a tax-free savings account, home buyer's plan, and an RSP home buyer's plan, any one of those, the rate of return does impact immensely how much of a down payment you end up with. But it could also immensely deplete it if there's a correction in the marketplace, depending how your money's invested. So find that right road that you're comfortable with. And I say this to my clients all the time, it's your choices in life that give you your choices. It's not necessarily your background, your education, it's what you're doing with that information. I know a lot of very well-educated people that still didn't make the right choices with their money. I also know people that very undereducated made, a couple of mine that were clients of mine for years, classic, mother stayed home. This goes back, they got married in like the late 50s, stuff like that. And she stayed home, raised the kids, and he worked at General Motors. Just a trades line guy, that was it. When they retired, they owned their house outright. They had their General Motors pension, $250,000 saved up, and his passion was an antique car. He always had a beautiful antique car in his garage, went to all the car shows. That's what they did as a retirement couple. All I'm saying is that then I'd meet other people that were making, engineers making $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 a year with mortgage rate up to their eyeballs and credit cards. And credit cards, don't even get me started there. You pay the minimum payment, it takes you 39 years to pay them off. And you have all those really good deals, pay a cent event deals and all that. What people don't understand, 90% of those cards where they say, hey, don't pay anything for 6 months. If you don't clear that balance at the end of the 6 months, they prorate the interest to day one. Yeah. So you borrow $30,000 for a home renovation. I'm not saying any particular company that does this. They literally, if you don't pay it off, now you owe $39,000.
Yeah, a lot of the, like if you go like the brick, I don't say the brick, but for
that's
example,
right. I didn't say that.
A lot of companies.
Brick is closed down, so you can say
okay. Well, like a lot of companies, when you go to buy furniture, same thing. Like I know you're talking with the credit cards as well, but like you think it's a great deal. It's a great deal if you follow the terms. But like you're a day late.
If you pay it off.
Yeah.
Because if you don't, here's another problem with it. It actually hurts your credit rating. Yeah. So if they give you a $30,000 credit card, line of credit, however it's set up, and then at the day one of the 7th month, you now owe $39,000, you're now $9,000 over your limit. You want to murder yourself by 100 points. You want to have another problem with getting a mortgage? Forget that you might not get it. Forget the substandard rate. If you're not taking care of your credit, even if it's the best rate in the world, you ain't getting it. So you need to make sure you take care of your back office. And that's where you've got it, like Randy said, write it down, have a plan. Freedom isn't free. You got to pay a price for it, which is called a sacrifice. Maybe not Starbucks this week. Maybe don't go to dinner. Maybe make a nice dinner at home.
Yeah, actually, go back to the whole Brenda thing with the whole credit card thing. Especially for those young kids who are going into college or university, when you're on campus, the first thing they want to do is give you this credit card, that credit card. I think for sure that should be kind of part of school as well, where like, it's good to have a credit card, but responsibly. Like, yeah, you use it you buy something, pay it off. Buy something, pay it off. So like you're getting that you're building up the score. But like a lot of people think, oh, I got free money, and then 6 months later they get this big bill in the thing, and like what's going on, right? So
I compare it to gaining weight, because I've gained and lost more weight than most people ever weigh in a lifetime, and it's one of those things, right? You can gain it real easy. Try to lose it. Debt works the same way. You can go and shop and travel, and all of a sudden you get your statement and go, well, wait, what? My minimum payment's $900 a month. I was going to buy a house, but now I'm going to pay. I used to joke all the time. You think about it. You go to Swiss Chalet for dinner, and that's nothing wrong with Swiss Chalet. It's great, inexpensive chicken dinner. And put it on your credit card, you may as well went to like a steakhouse and did it up. Because by the time you pay off that chicken dinner, if you carry it, that chicken dinner for $50 is like $2,000, most expensive meal in world history. And it's because our perspective has been skewed by the media that we need what we need, and we have to have it right now. When I started my career, I started as an auto mechanic because my dad was in the automotive industry. I was there when like people drove crappy cars. You can't barely find a broken car on the road anymore.
I know.
Because everybody drives a car that's 1 to 5 years old. My first car, I don't know, it was like 100 years old. It had doors that flapped in the wind, and I thought that was great because I paid $100 for it. But no way no way is somebody who's buying a car, even if they're a late teen, that they're buying a car like that. So.
It's interesting. You want to tell people how they email in, and let's go through some.
Yeah. So if you have any questions for Ray or for us, you can send it to yourhomeyourmoney101@gmail.com. We'd love to hear your questions. From Pam. Pam says, a flawed issue. The biggest issue for buying a home is not your income or even your credit score. It's the friggin' down payment that is killing folks from purchasing a home. Even if you do the same techniques that you're talking about, it will take decades to save. I'm gonna I guess, kind of counter that a little bit. So again, I don't have all the numbers, but according to Ray, with this, his example is $40,000, right? So $40,000, if that's all you have, could get you a home for $600,000, right? And right now I'm looking at some homes that have sold within the last few years. We have one for $400,000 in Oshawa, 3-bedroom. We have in January of this year. Okay, so it's tiny. But again, if you're looking to get into the place, some of these houses are small, but you have to start somewhere. So we have one for $425,000.
3 bedrooms.
3-bedroom, yeah.
1 bath.
So again, yes, we're not. No one's here saying it's going to be super easy, but again, with that I think mindset. Again, I'm a big mindset guy, and I think mindset is very big. And if you have that mindset, you've already kind of lost, right? So, are you gonna get the home of your dreams right away? Maybe not, but we all start somewhere, right? You start where you can get in. And then if you do things properly, pay that house off a decent amount, you get some equity in the home, and then you move up over time. But you have to start somewhere.
Yeah, that's interesting because getting the home of your dreams right at the beginning, I still don't have the home of my dreams. And now what the home of my dreams was when I was younger is no longer the home of my dreams. So isn't that interesting? But you are right though. There, there's going to be some sacrifices in purchasing a home. It doesn't matter if it's now or back when we were younger. It was the same sort of thing. But it was a lot easier, actually, I should say, to do it back then.
Yeah, sorry, I made my thing a little bit better here.
But we still had to have $30,000.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. $30,000 to me is it easy? No, but that should be doable. Like the problem, I guess, is if you're looking for $1 million home, then you need $20,000 plus, right? So yeah, is that going to be hard? Hell yeah, that's hard. But again, I'm looking on right now. Sold in September of this year, 3 bedrooms, $460,000. Again, they're in Oshawa. Again, I don't know most of them.
Yeah, and the proximity. I 100% agree with what you're saying. One of the things that's changing, and it happened to us, but not as drastically as what I think the young kids are facing today. But for us in 1989, when that big crash happened, that was pretty devastating for us, and affordability was through the roof. As a matter of fact, before we just went through this crash, 1989 was less affordable than it was 2-3 years ago. Now with interest rates really high and all that stuff, it's a different game. Okay. It's a nice house, right?
This one's over $589. It looks really nice.
Yeah, and so for us, what we had to do is we had to move from Toronto to Pickering. So we were moving outside of the city because of affordability. And so we moved outside for affordability so we could buy a house that we wanted. Today, it's not Pickering, it's now Oshawa. So, you're moving out further than what we moved. But it's still very, very possible.
Yeah, and even Oshawa, you're still, again, if you're working in Toronto, you might look at maybe an hour, just over an hour.
The Go is
with the Go, you have half an hour there, 40 minutes. Yeah. Another email from Ron. Ron says his take. Hello, I have worked with a financial planner for years. It used to be that it was very good to have real estate in your portfolio, but now not so much. The real estate market is very volatile. Also, there are many other investments to look at. The real estate market just doesn't cut anymore to have a huge real estate portfolio. You can talk on that, but I guess for me, it's like, I don't think we're really talking about portfolio here. It's more as you're looking for a home to live in, right?
Yeah.
Correct.
So, yeah.
Yeah, and absolutely, Ron. I'm not going to say either way. I'm not here to give investment advice today. Obviously, that is the core of what I do for a living. But I was one of those guys that Randy's talking about. I had 5 houses in 1989, and I was upside down on all of them overnight. And by the way, a good deal on a mortgage was 12%. I mean, you'd sign a 5-year mortgage at 12%. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, there are some relevant realities. But for investing, that's not really what we're talking about today. We're really talking about, hey, is it important for you to own your own home? Well, I mean, you can go pay rent at $3,000 to $4,000 to $5,000 a month, depending on where you are and what you're renting. Alternatively, if you're smart, you figure out how to get yourself into the market. You make the house. Listen, for those who know Oshawa, I had a house on Quebec Street, like Park and Gib area. Listen, when I bought the house, and when I was done with the house, it was no dream home, but it had a big backyard. My kids grew up in that backyard, and we made it nice, and we built a nice deck, and we put a big porch on the back, and you know what? We made sacrifices. Like, we didn't have cable, so we played board games. And today, as my daughters are adults, when we get together for holidays, we play board games. And it's because I was broke, and rather than spending $100 a month on cable, I made the right choice. And all I can say is that, again, man, you could do anything if you put your mind to it. You really can. It's not about dollars and cents. It's about sense. And be very clear about that.
All right, we have two more emails. One from Jackie. Jackie, with the question mark, says, "Me buy coffee."
Whatever that means.
And from Bob. Bob says, "Interesting show tonight. Interesting show tonight. P.S. Is Anthony still depressed over the U.S. presidential election?"
See, they always brag
Anthony,
about
there are
that.
meds for the Trump derangement syndrome. Well, I'm good out here in Canada.
I already said I don't know why anybody would talk about politics anywhere, but now I guess I know what's gone on in previous episodes.
Yeah,
so
they-
there you go.
They think I'm anyways, we'll leave that for next week when we don't have a guest on. But
Is there any more?
no, that's it for now.
Okay, awesome. Okay, yeah. So if I'm to really think about how it worked in my life, I grew up in foster care. I didn't really have parents, and at the age of 16, I believe that was it. I was kind of on my own, there was nothing out there. I remember when I actually had my real estate license. Back in the day, being black wasn't as popular as it was today. It was different back then, and I was out trying to sell real estate, but I didn't even own a house myself, and I was young, and it was really interesting. And not to mention there wasn't a lot of black homeowners either. So it was an interesting ride, but the truth of the matter is if you are able to overcome your own roadblocks, the things that are telling you that you can't do it. Like, I remember once going to my principal broker at the time, which was Percy Fulton, and I said to him, this is really hard. I'm black, and most of the people are white and own homes, and it's really difficult. And he said to me this. He said, "Well, how is that serving you?" And I said, "What do you mean?" He goes, "Thinking like that, how does that help you?" And I thought, "It doesn't." He goes, "So why are you thinking like that?" Damn, I had to go back. Okay, I went through a whole changed up everything, stopped that thinking, went after it, and look what happened.
Yeah.
But if I would have kept on that path,
You wouldn't be doing this.
I couldn't be doing it, because what I was doing is slowly eating away at my confidence and abilities. And I think that it relates a little bit to today for young kids who want to or don't believe they can buy a home. It's a sort of like a similar type thing, is that how does that thought serve you? It's certainly not going to empower you to find all of the ways to do it. So I would suggest that you do your best to maybe throw it away and think, hey, it's not that I can't do it, it's how can I do it?
And that's, if you don't mind, I'll add to that, because again, similar but a different story, but same reality. So I was very fortunate at a young age. By the time I was 25, I was a cash millionaire. I had 5 houses, owner-operator of gas stations. I just kind of followed my dad in that space. And there I was at 28 years old because of the Gulf War, nothing to do with me. I had invested money in my own gas stations. I was losing money hand over fist. I ended up going through a bankruptcy at 28, 29 years old after having all those things. All those houses went upside down and I wasn't making the money I was making. And then I decided to become a financial advisor. So it's not probably the coolest industry to enter when you're calling your friends going, hey, I want to come do a financial plan for you. And they go, didn't you just go bankrupt? Yeah, I can teach you how. I mean, like that was really where I was at in all of that stuff. So Randy, what you're saying, we all have a story. The question is, are you a victim in your story or are you the successor in your story? Only you get to decide. There was no way I should have entered into this industry at 29 years old, literally moving in with my mom with 3 babies in tow because I just lost my house. You know, it didn't make sense on paper. But by 33, I was a millionaire again because I closed my eyes, held my breath, and I went to work. It's not because of my industry. I could have done it anywhere because I decided. Again, remember I said it earlier, decide means to kill off the alternative. Failure was not an option. And I made that decision. I guess I'm fortunate I was brought up a bit of a sports background and I wouldn't say I was a great athlete, but I was a boxer and competitively. And all I know is either you hit or you get hit. And I'm not trying to quote Rocky and stuff like that, but there is merit to it, and what is your success path? And again, submit to the current environment and circumstances. And I've said it for years, man, if I can't defend it, I'll promote it. You know what I mean? So if the world's falling apart and I can't figure out why, I'm just going to promote what's good about it. And that's what you got to do in your own life. And as long as we're attached to, the groceries are too much and gas is too much and I was going to take a trip, but it's too much and I want to go see grandma, it's her last year, but I just can't. And all those things, the word can't is synonymous to the word quit. So keep that in mind. I just wanted to add to it because different stories, same outcome.
I hear you, and while it is true that groceries are too much, while it is true that gas is too much,
no one's arguing
it is
that.
true that's hard. The point is, okay, those things may be true, but how is it helping you to think like that? And that's really what it's about. So the fact is, thinking like that and being depressed about it and not going to see grandma or living life to its fullest is certainly not going to help you to advance anywhere. So the real question becomes, how can I do more so that this isn't affecting me in the way that it is? And we got to look for these solutions.
Yeah.
And I've always kind of been like that, but it is really hard when you're in the eye of the storm, right?
Like I never thought I'd be excited about $1.33 a liter for gas. I found a Costco today. It was $1.33. I need a tractor trailer that I can haul away.
I was
some
so
gas.
mad yesterday. I filled up at like 142, I think it was like 145, and I went to play basketball yesterday. On my way home, I think it was like 129, 130. I was like, what is going on?
Yeah, I'm like, but then I go up the street, it's 10 cents more. I'm like, I need to go get some cans. Something's going on at that Costco. Somebody made a mistake.
I think to double up my tank and go fill it again.
Yeah, exactly. But guys, honestly, I know we're joking about, we all live in the same world you do. And we all have to pay the same bills you do. We all do this together. And whether you're middle class, not middle class, middle, upper class, it doesn't matter. It's all relevant, and all I know is if you just put your head down, save some money, give up some things that you didn't want to give up, make some changes, you will find a way, unequivocally. There's always a way. If there's a will, there's a way, and you just got to put your head down and make a decision. Yeah, I want to buy a home. I want to put my flag in the ground with my family because that's what's important to me. If that's not important to you, that's okay. But if it is important to you, there is a way. And again, Anthony was going through some of the house. He was scrolling through some of the pictures. I'm like, that's a great house for $589,000. It's a beautiful little house. But if it isn't, can't you make it a beautiful home? Just like I said about my house on Quebec Street, it was pretty scary, but I made it a beautiful home for me and my family. And that's what you can do. And I did it with no money. And I did it over time. I didn't get ridiculous and go and borrow a bunch of money to build a deck and a pool. I did it as I had the money. I always lived beneath my means. And that is the key to financial freedom, period.
Yeah, I think again, don't want to pick on like the millennials, but like, I think part of the issue is we're kind of in like a, I don't know if it's the millennials, I think it's everybody. It's kind of like a right now mode. It's like I want it now. Like no matter what it is, it's like it's not waiting for the payoff. It's just give it to me right now. And I think in a nutshell, kind of what we're talking about is, again, to stop being problem oriented and be solution oriented. Like look for the solutions instead of looking at the problems.
Agreed.
Yeah, if it's possible, if
Yeah.
you're not that too depressed, because I think sometimes you get very depressed, and that causes you to sort of see things.
There's nothing worse than somebody trying to be the inspiration of hope when you
you're like-
you want to make sure everybody knows you have none,
Yeah.
right? So
I
they say
so-
hope's for the hopeless. Nope, no. If you got no hope, you don't want no hope.
Yeah.
So.
They're recruiting.
Yeah, they're recruiting to bring everybody down. Listen, everybody's down at the same level. It's fine.
Yeah.
We have one last thing before we continue from Eric. Eric says, "Hello, folks. Where is Jackie tonight? I thought I saw her at the mall buying a new purse."
Oh yeah.
Only kidding, girl. Good subject tonight.
No.
Yeah, as long as she wasn't buying coffee, I suppose. So that was really the point of contention.
Some of these purses I'm hearing, like
Right?
She doesn't buy purses anymore. She's got 500. She's got a store
yeah, but the word there you used was anymore.
anymore. Yes,
Right.
she did have that time when she went a little berserk.
My-
She even bought an Michelle Obama pumpkin-shaped purse. I go, what are you gonna do with that?
My wife would
Yeah.
my wife would literally faint if she knew the prices that you've been talking about some of these purses.
Yeah. Incredible. Remember, I have 4 daughters. I know the price of a purse.
Well,
That's a female thing.
Well, I don't know. Well, my
Guys, we
two
don't get it.
aren't there yet, so we'll see there. My wife has to force them to get a good purse, so we'll see how that turns out in the next few years.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Excellent.
maybe we'll just grab one. I'm sure if I grabbed one off the shelf, Jackie wouldn't even know.
Oh,
I'm positive because
You just start selling her purses off. All of a sudden, she comes in
That's
and
a
like,
good idea. So
why do
we're-
we have all this room in here all of a sudden? Where are my purses?
she might be listening.
Yeah, and then Randy's driving a Ferrari.
it's down in the basement are all those purses. I can grab those and get rid of those for sure. She wouldn't know. She wouldn't know at all.
Yeah, good she's not listening, I bet.
I bet she is.
Yeah, no, she
Anthony's
is.
gonna get an email.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you got 15. What you got, Randy?
Well, I got tons. Do you want to? Because I can go on for hours, as you know, Anthony. But did you?
Well, I'll just add a couple things and let kind of Randy continue to the end of the show. But listen, at the end of the day, get with somebody you trust or get referred to somebody who's had success with a financial advisor or a planner and get educated. That's all I can tell you. I mean, I know we live in a world of information and it's not always accurate anymore. I remember when somebody said, well, there's Google. Well, it doesn't mean you're getting the right, the right lead. But math is the math. The one reason why I love this industry is I can't cheat the math. The math is either going to work or it's not. So if I took Joe and Nancy Smith and I took the household income, I took their debt, I figured out the math, it's either positive and it's going to work or it is not. There's actually no emotion in this. See, the challenge is guys from my industry and women from my industry, they try to sell on emotion, especially like on the insurance side of things. And man, is Randy ever right? Like credit insurance, you check your credit cards. You could be paying $10 on every credit card. A line of credit insurance is ridiculous. And mortgage insurance that's housed by and issued by your bank, get rid of it. I made a lot of money in Durham region replacing a bunch of $20 policies that turned out to be $200 and getting them one more effective policy. And then I would take the difference and I'd put it towards a retirement plan or an education plan was ever important. But all I want to leave you with from my segment today is it is possible. It doesn't mean you're buying $1 million home, but that's also okay because it'll be your home. And that's what matters. Let us not forget it's about you and your partner building a life together. It's not about the Taj Mahal. It's not about having the biggest house on the street. I don't care what the Joneses are doing. I don't care what they're driving. I care that my home suits me and my partner at the moment of time that we're doing it for the amount of money we can afford so we can still have a quality of life. We can still enjoy the holidays. We can enjoy family events, and we can maybe take a trip and things like that. Find the balance and have dignity along the way, and you guys will have a great life. Because all I know is this, in a minute, it can be taken away from any one of us. So make sure you're living for today, planning for tomorrow, and making sure you're existing in the current circumstances at the highest possible level you can choose to be at. So that's kind of it for me for my part today.
All right.
Well, that was good.
Before you go on, 2 emails. One from Jackie. Jackie says, "Don't touch your purses or her shoes, I think."
Told you.
And Anne's asking if you have any way they can reach you, like a website or anything like that.
Yeah, you can just, very honestly, I have no problem giving it. It's a business cell. I'll give it out there. You can go to my website too. It's lmifg.com. Or you can just feel free to text me, 905-442-3114. The name's Raymond Young. I always get back to everybody within 24 hours, so feel free to just text, hey, I was listening to the show, I had a couple quick questions, and I will not try to get an appointment with you. I'm not going to come and try to change all your stuff. I'll answer your questions for you.
All right. Let's give the website one more time, just in case they didn't.
lmifg.com.
All right. There you go, Ann. So if you're looking for Mr. Raymond Young, you can find it there. Find him there.
Yeah, I was just gonna add, like you had mentioned, that there's the credit card insurance and that, but I remember when we were checking ours, it was an unbelievable experience. But we had I was with RBC, and I know maybe you shouldn't promote, but we've been with them the whole time for many, many, many years. We had insurance with our RBC, and then we had an insurance on the insurance. I'm not even kidding you. And that one was like 100 and something or something like that. It was insane.
What's the
and
insurance
then
insuring?
I had.
What if you miss the insurance payment? They pay that pay for you.
We're talking. It was many. It was either an insurance on the insurance, or it was an insurance filling a portion of the insurance that wasn't covered. It was just something really, really stupid. Like, honestly. And then I remember at the time, because I get to a point where I just think, oh man, this is just stupid. Let me get rid of it. I don't want to think about it. I don't want to learn no more about this. I remember at one point I was after one of those experiences, getting rid of one of those insurances, or all of those insurances actually. I remember saying that we had insurance for if you turned right, and insurance for if you turned left when you were driving the car. And there was ones for Wednesdays and Thursdays and ones for Tuesdays and Fridays. I remember that was the way I felt after we did that. But when we cleaned things up, it really did help accelerate our savings. So that was a really good thing. But if you're a little bit soft, I'm a little bit soft. I guess with the insurance companies or the banksters calling us, asking us something about some insurance, some of this, some of that, we just did it, and thinking that it would be good for us as growing up as an adults, and actually it wasn't doing anything. Oh, I mean, I don't think it was doing anything. So take a look at those kind of things, because maybe, just maybe, you're as bad as me and my wife, and you have a bunch of stuff that you're paying for that is actually just useless. What I'd like to talk about right now, what are you doing, loan calculator? Okay, what I'd like to talk about right now, October, it was a great month in real estate in terms of the number of transactions that we had. However, we were up against probably one of the worst Octobers in history. So is it surprising that we did amazing? Not really. And this month is actually trending, November is trending much better than last year's November. However, was last year much good? One of the worst years in history. So not a big surprise. Why I want to say that is, as you guys know, I sort of kind of future pace what the news media is going to say and things they're going to tell you. They're going to go on and tell you, because the Bank of Canada lower the rate 0.5%, everybody's fallen in love with it. And then if you then pick up the phone and call your mortgage broker and ask them, how many people are getting the variable mortgage? He'll say nobody. So then if nobody's getting the variable mortgage, then what the Bank of Canada lowering the rates didn't do anything. Okay, so keep that in mind. Just remember, like we've taught you, the Bank of Canada making their announcements is to do with the variable mortgage and the overnight rate for the banks. That's it. Not the mortgages that most of us are getting today. Because most of us don't want a variable mortgage because we're afraid of it after what they just did and bankrupt a whole bunch of people. So are we going to see a vibrant real estate market moving forward? I'm not sure. I don't think so. What I actually think is going to happen is that, we're going to finish out the year. Things are going to slow down. We are on track to definitely lose in terms of the average dollar to last year. Last year was 1,126,000. This year, so far, we're at 121. 1.121, sorry,
So
million.
less?
So we're about $5,000 less, which is not that much. So so it really depends how it's going to trend. But to make up that $5,000, it has to make it up on the average of the other 10 months that are already recorded. So it's not a matter of just having a $5,000 increase between November and December. We're going to have have a substantial increase to really pick that up. So I think that this year will be one of those record breaking years, because we've really only had a handful of years throughout the history of the Toronto Real Estate Board where the average price dipped below the year before. Now, 1989, no, actually 1990, 91, 92, 93, 94, and 96 were most of the years. Before that, it almost never happened. It'll happen like 1 year, and it was a small amount. But why people say, like even in 2018, where they're saying, oh, we had a financial crisis, yeah, it really, our transactions, the number of transactions that happened really dipped, but the average price didn't go below the year before. Right, so that is 2018 it did, but it normally doesn't, right? Outside of 2018, none of the rest of the years did we have a dip below the previous years, and then going back to 1989 and last year and this year. So these are kind of anomaly years, anomaly numbers. I think we're going to fall below last year. Transactions are starting to pick up, but they should pick up because the number of transactions being half of what they were in 2022, 2021 is just insane for transactions to drop in half. And so, and then when they dropped in half, then we have continued now the flow of going down. Like, for example, in 2021, we're looking at 121,000 sales, but only 75,000 in 2022. And in 2023, only 65,000. There's our half almost. And this year, so far, we're at 58,000. So this year, we may...
I guess to add on bits, so like the numbers are going down, the average is staying. Call it zero because
relative.
Yeah, if we're
within 5,000.
Yeah, 5,000 like 0.5%, give or take. So, but the total volume in the market is way down.
Way down.
Yeah.
And so which shows activity, which shows demand, really. And so we're seeing demand, be weakened by affordability. That's really the big thing, because people still want to have a home. As a matter of fact, they're going out and they're paying these astronomical rental prices. So they definitely want a home. It's just the affordability right now. And as one of our listeners wrote in and said, it was the deposit, the down payment that was also very challenging. And I agree with both of those statements, especially today with the price of everything. It makes it harder and harder and harder to save. But But for now, what you're going to hear in November, we're going to be up over last year, and then you're going to start to hear the news start to talk about how the lowering of the Bank of Canada interest
Made a
rates is
difference,
making, and it's just not that way. However, what I will say is the actual fixed rate has actually been edging up. So while the Bank of Canada is bringing their rate, the fixed rate is edging up, and that's what everybody's going for, is the fixed rate. And the fixed rate is still below the variable rate. So I really I'm not seeing a real super positive. How much? Okay, I'm not seeing a real super positive 2025. Unfortunately, and I think if we are to get lucky and have some movement, it will be in the early part of 2025. It will be in the springtime where we have half decent activity, and I think it's going to drop off a cliff in the summer. And I will give one reason, but go ahead.
I don't know. I think this spring's gonna be very interesting because I think there's a lot of people who are probably waiting off for the spring. So
Yes,
because of that, you might
this
get like
is true.
an influx of property things. People saying, okay, you know what? I waited. I'm gonna get out now. And then instead of having this, let's say,
Get out?
Yeah, like get out of the market
Okay.
or basically they want to sell, right? People who want to
Yeah.
sell. I think people might be waiting for that, thinking that they're gonna get that bump. But if we have an increase of 20, 30, 40, 50% at that one time, that could also
inventory.
depress the
Yeah,
actual.
too much inventory will put a downward pressure on price. And there's another thing coming, is that 2025 will, if we go back to 2021, guys, remember we talked about the 121,000 transactions? That was the biggest year in history for the Toronto Real Estate Board. Guess when the majority of those mortgages come due? Next year. And so what's happening is in 2021, people were getting mortgages at like 1.75,
Yeah, exactly.
1.91, 2.1. That's what their mortgages are, and they're going to come out of that with a 5.5 mortgage, and they're going to look at their mortgage payment and have a conniption fit. And so this is going to force a number of properties on the market. And so as Anthony just so eloquently said, you know, he believes there's going to be more properties entering the marketplace next year. Well, for this reason, guaranteed. Not only to mention that there's a pent-up demand right now of sellers that were hoping to get their money this year, weren't able to, so they're putting it off till next year. So that's why I think that we have a chance in the early part of the year, the spring part of the year, for sellers to be able to maximize on their dollar. Otherwise to that, I think it's forget about it. You're going to have to wait until 2026, 2027 and on. That's for sellers. For buyers, I think it's a little bit different. I think for buyers, if you can afford it, if you have the down payment, if you have the ability to make the monthly payments, you're locking into a fixed amount, you're fine. And guess what? Home prices are bound to go up in time, long term. There is no other direction for them long term. We don't have enough homes. I know that Trudeau promised everybody he's going to bring in how many million homes. It ain't happening. Okay? It's not happening.
And if he does,
Check the stats.
where are they going to be?
No,
right?
it's not happening. They were supposed to be doing it last year. Now, what's happened? Now is one of I think for the last decade, this is the slowing housing starts ever in the last decade. So,
All right,
anyways.
gotta cut you off, Randy. As always, thank you, Ray, for joining us. We do have to run this. As always, it's been your home, your money, and our lives on realityradio101.com. Have a great rest of your week.
Bye for now.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Your Home, Your Money with your hosts, Randy and Anthony, right here on Reality Radio 101.